Good morning. Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Thank you for your thoughts and prayers. I do feel much better now. Always appreciate health a little more when we have those times that we're not feeling so well. But today I'd like to talk to you about something that's just kind of been on my mind. I was listening to Beth Moore the other day, and she had made a statement. She said someone had asked her. He says, "What is the knot in your rope?" And I thought, wow, what a great question. And by that they meant, what is the one thing that keeps you holding on to Christ? What's the one thing that keeps your faith strong? What is that thing that you believe in so strongly that no matter what happens, that knot in that rope is going to hold you? And I thought, that is really scriptural, actually. In 1 Peter 3:15, it says, "But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for the reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect." And she gave her answer, and of course it was beautiful, and she was talking about the unconditional love of Christ, and she had some scripture with it. I wish I jotted some of that down, but and I just got me thinking, what is the knot in my rope? And I was just thinking about a time in my life. I was brought up in church, and there was a time I walked away from God, and when I came back to God, and my faith just kept growing stronger and stronger. In July of 2008, I just remember this very distinctly. We lost a very good friend. It was a senseless car accident. We were blown away by it. 46-year-old, had a family, had so much going on, and so much that he needed to be here on earth in my eyes. And I remember being angry with God. I remember I didn't lose my faith. I still went to church. I still sought God, but I was so mad at God. And it wasn't because I doubted God. It was actually, I was struggling with the things I knew about God. God, you are sovereign. There is no reason you couldn't have reached down and held that truck from, going off the road. There's no actually, you didn't even have to do that, God. God, you spoke the heavens and the earth into existence. You could have done it with your very word. You could have stopped this. And I was so angry with God because I knew who my God was, and why he didn't stop this, I don't know. It was like I was questioning his goodness. This is really part of your plan, part of your purpose? Are you kidding me? Because this doesn't make any sense to me. And I went for a couple months struggling with this, and I like I said, I didn't stop seeking God, and I didn't stop going to church. I was in his word. I was surrounding myself with as much of him as I could. I was listening to Christian radio, I was listening to messages, I was, like I said, in church, and I was still trying to reconcile all this. And I remember listening to a sermon on Job a couple of weeks in a row, and that just, it didn't sink. It didn't really, I understood the message, and okay, that's Job, and it's in the Bible, and that's, I would just kind of push that away, like, this still doesn't make sense. And I remember a time, and I remember very distinctly, I will never forget this. I was driving by myself, I was listening to the radio, and I stopped at an intersection. And on the radio, this lady was speaking, and this was as if God would directed this question to me. Even when you don't understand, will you trust me? And I'll tell you what, my heart broke in a million pieces. You know what, God? I don't understand. I don't get this at all. But you know what? I will trust you. And then and there, I laid down just the line I will not cross. This is God, and I will trust him no matter what. Does it make sense to this day? Nope. Are there things that have happened that have shook me since? You betcha. But you know what? Since I made that decision, since he asked me that question, I made that decision that I will trust God even when I don't understand. And the thing I have to understand is that God's ways are so much higher, so much more vast than I can even comprehend. I'm trying to comprehend this in my finite mind and my finite ways and my limited information. In Isaiah 55, 8-9, it says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." And I just thought of that time, when Job was questioning God. Now, he endured way more than I have in my lifetime, and it was just, loss after loss over loss. His whole family, his whole well-being, everything he'd worked for, he lost, and God answered him, and he has a very lengthy answer, but I'm just going to touch on part of it. And in Job 38:4, it says, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding." And that just kind of takes me back. God was much more gentle with me when he asked me if you'll trust me, no matter even if you don't understand. He tells Job, "Where were you? How can you think to fathom how I think? Do you understand who I am? And he just kind of laid it out for him, and I just thought, what a beautiful scripture to look at, and what a great passage to run through. Not that God was being harsh or he was being unkind. He was just telling him, Job, you don't understand who I am. And the same thing he said to me, will you trust me even when you don't understand? And that was the knot in my rope, right? This is the thing that I cling to. And little did I know, a year and a half later, I was burying a husband. And little did I know that, 6 years later, Dave and I were putting our daughter to rest, laying her little body to rest. But if I had not had that experience, if God had not broke through to me and said, you know what, I need you to trust me no matter what, I wouldn't be able to say that, you know what, these things shook me, and I still have questions, and I have my list when I get to heaven. God, can you please explain this to me? Because, there's things I'm not going to understand this side of heaven, why things unravel the way they do, why things happen the way they do. I realize that, it rains on the just and the unjust, but it doesn't make any sense why our heart's desires sometimes are just crushed. And but had I not had that moment, had he not pursued me, had he not broken through to me, I wouldn't have had that foundation. I already knew that God was sovereign. That was my struggle. I knew that God was good. That was another struggle. Like, God, this doesn't line up with who I think you are, right? But this is my finite mind. And I just think, think about it. What is the knot in your rope? What is the one thing that God has showed you, or that the attribute of God that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that holds you fast to your faith? And my life verse is Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And I just encourage you to really think about what your knot in your rope is. What is the one thing that holds you so closely to God? And there's so many. Maybe it's more than one thing. Maybe it's I'm the one that was just focused on the trust. I will trust you no matter what. I will trust you. And just like Beth Moore, hers was the unconditional love of God that just drives her and just makes her feel safe and in her commitment to God and her faith. But what is the one thing? What is the knot in your rope? What is the hope that you have in God? And just I challenge you to really think about that and just kind of meditate on it. It took me a long time just to think it all out, because there was so much involved. Was it the goodness of God? Was it the faithfulness of God? But honestly, it's just being able that God is trustworthy. And I pray that you have a blessed day. You keep fighting the good fight, and that you find your knot in your rope. God bless.